good night, everyone. Happy Tuesday night, and welcome to a delayed version of What's the Deal? Delayed meaning, for those of you who might be catching this for the first time and didn't really understand what was up, or didn't understand what I would mean by that, is that we started this a little while earlier, but we had some technical difficulties. So now I'm actually starting. I got the opportunity. Technology gods have given me a little bit of an ease up. Let's hope that we are running smoothly right throughout the session. Right. So because I'm determined to bring this information to you all every Tuesday. So today we're actually having a conversation as it relates to in terms of the What's the Deal series. Today we're going to be talking about what's the deal with sales training. All right. Now, for anyone who is new to the What's the Deal series, the What's the Deal series is really a series where we're going to be asking what's the deal with a series of topics in specific categories. Those categories will be CRM, one of them mainly being HubSpot. But if it's a CRM or industry specific conversation or topic, we will be addressing it. Sales, of course, everything across the line of sales. The other one that we're going to be talking about is marketing. There's some pretty interesting things that's happening in the space of marketing right now that will eventually be affecting sales, or it's affecting sales right now. So just the role of marketers and that marriage between marketing and sales. And of course, the last one being entrepreneurship. And it's kind of going to go in that order. So every week we're going to be touching each one. So week one is going to be along the lines of, excuse me, HubSpot and the CRM industry. Then the other one is sales. Week three is going to cover marketing, and of course, week four is going to cover entrepreneurship. On those odd days when we have, on those odd months where we have a fifth week or fifth Tuesday, we'll kind of figure something out and see how we go from there. So, for those of you all who are going to be seeing this for the very first time, welcome, and I hope that this information is valuable enough. Excuse me, is valuable enough for the valuable enough for you all. So I just want to give a shout out to Alex. So Alex, good night. Sorry, yeah, good night, brother, and excellent presentation. I woke up 7 o'clock this morning just to pay attention to what is it that you had to offer, and it was excellent. And yes, that payments portal is really a big announcement coming out of HubSpot. So folks who are not familiar, this is Alex. Bringing up a topic from Inbound 2021 this morning that was announced earlier today that HubSpot will be launching soon its payment portal. My only thing there with that would be, Alex, I'm hoping that it supports us here in the Caribbean sometime soon. I read the announcement and it said for the US only, but nonetheless, it is a huge announcement and really a big support to those of us who are looking at doing e-commerce and getting onto the CMS platform. So it's just one lovely ecosystem that's developing. All right. So today, guys, we are talking about sales training. That thing called sales training that everyone, it's the time of year sometimes where companies start planning for sales training. I have had my challenges as a consultant and also as a sales rep with sales training. So I want to kind of address that a little bit tonight. And then from there, I'm going to show you a couple of things as it relates to some of the best practices, some of the things that I've actually learned. So let's kind of go into it a little bit more, right? So as we're talking here about what's the deal with sales training, we're going to kind of cover a little bit of so what sales training is. Now that might seem like a no-brainer, right? Because folks will say, well, what is true sales training? But hey, I want to make sure and define it with everything that we're doing. I want to define what the issue is or what it is, and then kind of see how far off we are as it relates to what it is. Because I think we've fallen into a modus operandi of just taking things one particular way all the time, right? Then we're going to talk a little bit about what the problem is, then the approach to addressing that problem. I'll give you some examples. I'll give you an example. And then, of course, we're going to go smoothly into a conclusion and we're going to kind of wrap up. All right. So let's talk a little bit about sales training. Sales training it's part of a process an organization takes in improving the sales of their skills of their sales reps with the intention to increase sales plus some other KPIs. Now, the first thing that I want to point out there where it says it is part of a process. The reason why I'm highlighting that is because in many instances, sales training is looked at as the thing. Like an organization wants to do sales training because they want to increase their numbers. And if it's one thing that I have recognized very, even as a rep, where money would have been spent or invested in sales training, sometimes the problem wasn't the skill set of the staff. There were other factors that's affecting the training. However, the organization, somebody must be the scapegoat. So the organization would always look at the reps and say, well, our reps aren't doing the job properly. So we need to do sales training. Okay. All right. So as it relates to that, the problem today, even when engaging a sales training consultant, and I'm kind of going with some of the things that I have seen while in corporates a few years ago, and then now as an independent consultant, is that most sales training engagements are very cookie cutter. So the sales training community here in Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension the Caribbean, is not very large, right? So there are some things that I would have heard customers receive as sales training, not from some of my good colleagues, but from some other folks who are coming into the industry or in the industry, but also things that customers would have invested in, whether it's online training and stuff like that. And but they take this template as it relates to what sales training is. And in that regard, the results that they need to get are not fully achieved. So there's no measurable value. Now, the graphic that you're seeing here, the reason why I chose this is because if you're doing anything, there must be some result. If it is that you are going into weight management, whether it's to gain weight, tighten up your core, lose weight, there must be a way that you need to measure that. And in most of my engagements, I've always found that sales training comes across as a checked box. But I'll talk about that a little bit more. So in many instances, there's no. So like, I'll give you an example. I remember just about 2 years ago having a discussion with a director of sales. And they indicated that, yeah, we did some sales training with the staff and the sales training. We did online training. And I was like, all right, cool. So what was the outcome coming out of that? Like, what results did you see? And there was nothing that they could return to me as an answer. Why? Because the idea was, well, there's some training that I saw online that should be good for the team. Let's just do that. And that's whether it's in-person training or whether it is online training, that modus operandi is still the same today. And it's something that we need to move past, right? So, so with that being said, what should really the approach be? Now, if organizations are making or not having a more systematic approach to sales training, and if sometimes the consultants are not doing it, then really who's the person or who are the individuals to kind of help do it right? And that's where I want to kind of set the bar or plant the seed as to what should a sales training engagement look like. So what's really the approach? Well, earlier this year, I was asked to attend a meeting, and the meeting, well, of course, was to discuss sales training. While discussing the sales training, though, I was able to raise a couple of questions just from listening to what was being said. Of course, this was from a senior management perspective as to what they believe the problem was and the type of training that they needed, right? And after going into it a little bit more and explaining exactly what it should look like, the gentleman said to me, well, Lyndon, we called it for training, but this sounds like a consultation. So he's thinking that it's a little bit off because a sales trainer is maybe supposed to just come in and just do exactly as they're being asked, or just kind of deliver. Well, okay, you're training on prospecting. Well, that's what we're going to do. Well, that's not always the case, right? I would like to think that any consultant, anyone in the space of sales or marketing, anyone that's providing a consultative type of service to anyone should be raising the bar or leaving particular seeds to nurture in the minds of the customer, right? So I left a particular seed there. And I want to give you a couple examples as to other things that happened, not coming out of this specific engagement, but with another one. right? So sales training really has a framework. Everything is supposed to have a particular framework, even within your organization. And what I'm sharing here could be done in your organization before you even meet a consultant. Now, yes, there may be some areas of guidance because there may be areas of scope that, whether it's HR or sales management teams, they may not pick up, but at least doing it like this can give you some perspective as to what is actually needed. And that framework should go along the lines of having a proper discovery done, right? Then doing some assessments internally. You might even want to push the envelope and do some assessments externally as well. Customers that did bought, customers that did not buy, right? Just to get their perspective, deals that you won, that you lost, and get feedback on that, right? Then you take the time and you have an assessment review where the consultant or even the sales manager, one that's very very analytical, is saying, the information that's coming back is, it's a little bit different than what we felt that it was. Because in most instances, it's easy to say, well, my team isn't doing enough of this. But when you start getting the data back from the assessments, you got to realize, wait a minute, there are other things here that maybe a rep didn't do, or we didn't did, or the organization didn't deliver. So when we're blaming a sales rep for not closing an opportunity, it could have been something else. But again, without that information, you are unable to really have a proper assessment as to what needs to be where the training needs to be focused. The other thing is really now doing you start outlining the the training, right? So the training would now outline, okay, well, these are the specific things or modules that we need to start focusing on our teams. And the interesting thing there is that you could deal with those modules as a matter of priority based upon who your team is, the size of the organization, or the size of the opportunities that they normally deal with, and how critical is it, right? Because if it is that you realize that you have some opportunities that we're not, the customers, the client, sorry, the team isn't turning over fast enough, then that may be something that you want to address. And then you could also look at maybe filling the space with the other opportunities later, right? Now, there are a number of different ways that you can identify priority. And that could be along the lines of revenue, like how much of an impact is this to your business? Because at the end of the day, if it is that you're not closing these opportunities fast enough, how is it going to affect things like salaries, paying bills, just your entire organizational growth? Because again, sometimes reps could be assessed incorrectly, right? The other one that you want to not pay attention to, then you have, how do you want to deliver the training? Well, I mean, for now, we are doing most of our training engagements online, but I will say there are some engagements that I do online, and it's not as effective or impactful as if I did it in person, right? Especially things like role playing and stuff like that. So again, based upon what the outcome is in terms of the outline of the training, then, and how do you want the training delivered, then it will help determine, okay, these could be done online, but this would be really better if it is that we do those things as in-person sessions. And now, after the training is done, what are the outcomes you expect to see? Now, that's the framework you're supposed to be working with, right? And once you have those things, now I have seen companies do particular assessments, but I'm not sure if those assessments was granular internal assessments by genuinely asking a series of questions. And I'll try to give you an example as to some of those questions coming up, right? So here's an example. This example was, company said that the problem was prospecting. However, when we did our assessment, right? And yes, sometimes I push the envelope because I want to get I want to do my own discovery, right? We found 6 problems, right? Outside of prospecting. Problem number 1, and I want to kind of open this more up for you all to pay attention to, right? So problem number 1 was this: confidence. One of the questions that we asked is, how confident are you in what you sell, right? And that confidence could be a number of different things. Now, the results that came back, out of a team of 12, only 3 people were really, really confident in terms of what they were selling, right? Now, that's a concern, really and truly, right? And then, of course, you have between 4 and 5 people in each area that are either at 60% or 80% as it relates to their confidence. Now, confidence could be a number of different things. It could be a product knowledge issue. It could be a product and alignment of customer issue. It could just be they don't understand what the whole value is, you know. So there are many different things as it relates to confidence towards selling. Now, notice I am already getting a little bit more complex in sales training, right? Because talking about confidence, you know. But yeah, and we're talking about product knowledge and all these other, yes, those things are real things that happen as it relates to um, sales training, right? So this was one of the first things that we paid attention to. And what was happening is that we recognized that there was an adoption of some new technology that the team had, and they weren't 100% on board with it. And then you also had some people who were a little bit nostalgic because one brand was no longer part of the organization, so they had to pick up this new brand. So there were many different things that was happening within there that we were able to identify. The other one was middle of the funnel skills. Now check this out. We have a client that's saying our issue is prospecting. Okay, no problems. When we asked the question, though, you would realize that prospecting from the sales rep's perspective wasn't the issue. Now, I do a little bit of a Jedi mind trick here, right? So it's two questions: what are you good in, what are you bad in? But I focus mainly on when I ask folks, well, tell us which areas you feel that you are the strongest. Everyone said, or a large percentage of the team said that they are good at the top of the funnel. However, when it came to qualifying the customer, doing a needs analysis, and closing the opportunities, they all scored really low, really low. So this was the focus of my next point to the organization to say, okay, well, how come they didn't do proper qualification? Like, why are they not properly? Why do they feel comfortable in terms of qualifying the customer? Because if you can't qualify, then everybody's a prospect, and you may have a lot of quotations going out that's a waste of time, right? Because the customers are not best fit customers. um, Needs analysis, again, what are the exact needs, and are you now quoting, so the customers who are the best fit, are you now quoting specific to what their needs are? Again, a very, and listen, this is important from a B2C standpoint and a B2B standpoint. Whether you are in SaaS sales, you are in insurance, you are in automotive, it doesn't matter. Even if you're in retail, a customer walks in, you ask them a few questions, are you pointing them in the right direction based upon what their response is? It doesn't matter. Sales is sales. So I'm just keeping it simple to say that in this instance, this is really across the board in terms of where the gaps are. And closing is automatic because if you understand qualification and needs identification, you have the ability of positioning the right product, properly indicating what the value is, and that closing process becomes easier for you. So closing isn't a matter of this heavy negotiation thing where you have to win over the customer. No, you will be able to now get the customer's commitment because two important things that you did earlier in your process would have been done. So again, what we were able to identify is that areas to focus on will be qualification and needs analysis. Notice that we didn't talk about prospecting too much, right? The other one was unclear KPIs. So again, we asked the team, so tell us a little bit about what your KPIs are. And everyone had different things, and it was different along the scale. So some people, it was higher in terms of meeting with the customers. Then you had others who were finding new business. So not everyone was in sync as to what their KPIs were. And this is very important because what is everyone working towards? What is the organization working towards? What is this? What are the sales managers keeping in front of the staff? So again, these are questions when you have someone that's seasoned in the industry looking at this, they will be able to tell you, okay, we have some issues here, but we have to be asking the right questions as consultants to be able to get you this. And again, if you are engaging a sales trainer, things like these are supposed to be coming up, right? The other one that we asked was, how often do you hit your quota? Now, this was really interesting, right? Um, because a lot of people weren't hitting the quota. And in one instance, you had a guy who one person wasn't even sure if they were hitting their quota or not, right? So again, it's not very clear. And what we recognize is not part of this presentation. What we also recognize is that really pipeline management was a It wasn't good, right? Pipeline management was poor. And as I mentioned to you before, we identified that there were a lot of opportunities at quotation phase. So a lot of proposals and a lot of quotations were going out, but they were all stuck right there. Talk about that a little bit some more. All right. We also then looked at, this is number 5. So there wasn't anything that they were tracking. What were you using? It was a very archaic system. It was which was Excel, right? People said that they were using a CRM, only to find out that it wasn't really a CRM. All right. Well, of course, like someone said that I will call the office. I will email the office. I will, I write my stuff down in a notebook, and well, whatever other is what they're using right now. So problem number 5 was there was no CRM, or there was nothing that was properly shared, that was systematic, that the team could use, that was easy for the team. Now, when it comes to things like reporting on sales people don't really like to waste time doing reports, right? I was a salesperson. I am still a salesperson. If I had to sit down and do my own Excel, that would be a waste of time for me right now as an entrepreneur, right? So having something that you can develop on the fly, like HubSpot, I'm a big HubSpot advocate, but having a CRM nonetheless that would help you, um, that is easy for the team to use, and they don't have to waste time by doing a report, because you can have death by report, right? But nonetheless, no CRM in this particular example. And the 6th one was a leadership issue, right? That I hinted to about 3 slides ago. And that leadership issue, if you noticed that, where do you get the most impact? And a lot of people says company focused and pushing you, what does it say here? Pushing you to achieve your goals. Those were the 2 highest ones. My interpretation of that was, hey, listen, you all need to hit all the numbers, because the company is coming down on us or whatever. So that's the company focus side of things, right? And yes, because of that, will push you. But look at what's missing. The second one, which was the lowest one, if I'm not mistaken, was coaching the team. And then you also had sales strategies was also very poor, right? So we had a coaching issue and a strategy issue that was low. So what we also identified is that there were shortcomings with the team. So the team was not delivering the way that they were supposed to, or they should be delivering, as it relates to supporting their people towards hitting their numbers. Now, this here is a big problem, because sales leadership is supposed to be the driver towards all success. All right. We're going forward by one more. So what came out of this is that our sales training engagement didn't just cover prospecting and maybe some hodgepodge topics that we might feel are the best topics right now. What we did do, though, is that coming out of the assessment, we put something in place specifically for this organization. And this organization was a B2B tech firm, and they were selling a range of things from office equipment to supplies and software and point of sale solutions. So it varied a lot, right? And we gave them modules on value proposition, client profiling. We did have prospecting in there as well, right? Pipeline management, objection handling, because again, coming out of where are most of your deals right now, excuse me, there were other questions in the survey that I didn't share on this slide, but pipeline management and objection handling were 2 very important ones, because what we recognize is that the pipeline, of course, wasn't managed, but customers were giving them responses just to kind of hold, so customers giving you something to hold on to, and then you had the thing of maybe not wanting to call back the customer on time and stuff like that. And then I was even able to bring in one of my colleagues, Jared, to talk a little bit about social selling, right? So what they asked for and what we delivered on was different, right? But what we delivered on was specifically to what they needed to get. And this, again, is, as I say, is why it's important to take a very structured approach towards people development. You are improving on the talent and development of your team, right? So what we, excuse me, our next phase there was really, we looked at the managers. So we also did some work for the managers. right? And with the work for the managers, I was able to get a colleague of mine from Jamaica, and she came in and she spoke about strategic sales leadership. And then I really sat down with the team over a 3 month period, and I really helped them focus on refining what their KPIs should be, because a lot of their KPIs were very, very vague. I think one of the KPIs that was, interestingly enough, that they had to bring in 4 customers, but those are just the number 4. But the type of customer wasn't specified. There wasn't any specificity in one of those KPIs. And it was, I mean, I don't want to say it was almost like a joke, but again, I could understand why people weren't hitting their numbers, and then why the company, the organization was feeling the pinch. All right. And then how do you know properly performance manage the the team, right? So the outcomes was that the training was a lot more focused, right? Managers started to work on their approaches, and the team started to see results in the activities. Now, check this. In many instances, now you can have different outputs as it relates to sales training, but based upon what the scenario is within the organization, I always like to be very, very clear with customers. If it is that we are dealing with things that are at the lower end of the funnel, meaning that we're somewhere in the middle where we're going to be working on objection handling strategies, and so from the middle there go down towards closing, yes, your return should be along the lines of, excuse me, should be along the lines of converting customers, and you'll see your revenues, your more deals will begin to close. However, if you are having issues at the top of the funnel where people are not identified properly, sometimes you have sales activity issues. Sometimes, again, as you also, qualification was poor, identifying the needs analysis was poor. Don't look for don't look just yet for numbers to say, well, you will see a return on investment in your sales numbers by X. It's important again for us as consultants to really clearly set the expectation as it relates to that same thing with the confidence. How do they feel now about the products that they sell? That's why value proposition training was so important, because we had to now show them what the value of these products or services are. How are they helping their customers? Which was a totally different type of conversation or training for them, because it was something that they never looked at. Most trainings aren't value based, it's product based. So whether it was Sharp or HP or Xerox or Fujitsu or whatever they are, or they would sell their product. Yes, they may sprinkle some tactical sales strategies or tips in there, but it's not really what they were looking for, right? Now, what happened here too is that this organization actually was acquired, so they moved into the environment of someone else. But one of the VP of sales did mention to me, because we didn't get to see the whole thing through to really properly measure the end result. But he did mention, he said, Lyndon, I felt that this prepared us for where we were going to, right? So as a matter of preparing for that phase, and again to sales training, again it's a developmental process. People are at different stages, so you can't do sales training for one for and you can't do sales training for a team and expect everybody to respond the same way. That can happen, but it has to be driven down from the top. But you also have to keep paying attention as to where the different people are, because some people are stronger at different stages within your organization. Yeah. So in conclusion, guys, my sharing here with you all, for anyone that's going to see this from a senior executive level, even coming down to middle management, is to understand this when it comes to sales training. We can't just do it for doing its sake. There should be no cookie cutters in this space here. Your your stuff also has to be measurable. Why are you doing it? What are the outcomes and objectives that you are trying to see? Because those things will have to be your new KPIs. What is going to be your new normal coming out of this, right? Follow a framework. Even after a training has been done, who's now going to be responsible? Who's now going to be responsible for helping sales professionals get to that point? Because it now has to be the manager. The sales manager is now responsible. And I'll say this, sometimes sales managers are less equipped and sometimes less skilled than some of their sales reps. Just putting it out there, right? And of course, have clear outcomes as to what you want and start measuring it properly. right? Because at the end of the day, you are looking for certain results. As it relates to business, I mean, numbers is one of the biggest metrics that we're measured on, and we want to make sure that we are giving ourselves and our team the best possible opportunity to achieve the things that we are supposed to be achieving. I'm going to say that again. We want to make sure that we are giving ourselves and our teams the best opportunity to achieve the things that they are supposed to be achieving. And that achievement is even outside of the company's achievement, because I want to make sure that my reps are hitting their numbers so they can do whatever they need to do, whether it's travel, whether it's buy a car, buy a house, whatever it is. I want to make sure that I am taking up an approach to development. I am taking an approach to their development in such a way that I am part and I am responsible, partially responsible for them getting the best possible opportunity to do that. And that is how this thing is supposed to work when it comes to sales training. All right. So that is what I wanted to cover there. Right. So that is the end of this particular episode in the What's the Deal. I do hope that this brought particular value to you. If it is that you joined the live earlier, my apologies that we did not we had to take a break because of the technical difficulties. But as I said, we were smooth this in this second go round. Next week we are going to be talking about third party cookies. Google is going to be removing third party cookies, and how is that going to affect marketers? How is that going to affect things that organizations may have gotten accustomed with? Does it even matter to you? Because in some instances, some companies have not even been using that. They don't even know what I'm going to be talking about next week, but I'm raising it nonetheless because it is an industry issue in the space of marketing. So again, this is the end of today's session in terms of what's the deal. Look out for us next week, between 7:30 and 8. I guess that's just bearing in mind as to how technology goes. All right. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. It was a pleasure sharing with you all. Dana, thank you very much for your response. Dana is saying here that great information. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for tuning in. All right, much appreciated. Take care, guys. Peace.